I know where you're going with this, but there is not enough people at the table. I can adamantly state unequivocally, law enforcement in the Chicago area will absolutely be anti any type of movement of guns. Those of us in downstate Illinois who are very pro Second Amendment are now going to be looking at this resolution as a mandate for or against the Second Amendment. I know that isn't what you want this to be. I absolutely know that, but I see it happening, sir. And for the sake of your resolution, I would respectfully ask that we somehow add some members. So again, as Representative Rose so eloquently stated, we need someone on this committee to give it balance. And I really think that is a significant issue.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sation, and you and I have developed quite a relationship sitting next to each other, and I would point out to you that the governor has 3 seats that he can select, and you'll note that the governor selects 3 individuals who represent federal, suburban, or downstate law enforcement officials. So I would encourage you that if we are successful this afternoon, to reach out to the governor, and as I've made that challenge, that if I've left out any law enforcement agencies to provide that balance that you're looking for, those 3 selections by the governor should be able to handle that.
I respect, again, where you're coming from. I respect the motives of your objective, but very respectfully, sir, I will have to be a no on your resolution simply because it has grown in no way because of your efforts, but it absolutely is becoming a pro or anti-gun issue. Thank you.
Members of the House, as interest seemed to have grown on this amendment exponentially, I'm seeking leave to turn on the timer. I will do that for the next, dozen speakers. Representative Riboletti.
Thank you, Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Representative, when I joined you as a chief co-sponsor, it was for the purpose of looking at gun trafficking, and I think I joined Representative Sesha, and I should have seen that as an oversight, that we should have some members from each caucus. And obviously we have folks on both sides of the aisle that have served in law enforcement, that represent diverse areas of the state, and I think that they would bring a different mindset from law enforcement. But you also have 3 seats from the mayor of Chicago. You have Chicago schools. So I think that maybe some other representation, and I think maybe this could get close to more unanimous consent here than potentially fail. And I think the bigger picture is that we want to deal with the issues of gun trafficking. As my friend from Cook County stated earlier about the guns that come from Mississippi and that come from Indiana and come from other states, I just think it's something that we could all work on, and it doesn't cost anything to add an additional 8 members. So I would urge you to consider that before this bill is moved, or this resolution is moved. Would you consider taking it out of the record and consider adding at least some members from each caucus?
Unfortunately, because of, for an example, yesterday I was looking in the paper and 4 teenagers were shot and killed right around the corner from my house. Ultimately, we're going to have to come up with a solution. We're going to have to do that. And as a freshman looking at these issues again and again and again, I'm seeing that, as Mr. Sesha said, that there's a line drawn. This is not to create a line of demarcation between the 2 parties. That's not the purpose here. The purpose here is to get law enforcement involved and figure out what is going on. Why are 43% of the weapons seized in Chicago coming from as far away as Mississippi? Why is that? Why is that? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think that anyone in this chamber knows the answer to that question. So this is something that needs to be studied. We need to come up with a resolution, not tomorrow, but now.
Well, I appreciate that. But before you were here, other folks had opportunities to do the same thing. And I spent 8 years prosecuting gang crimes and gun crimes. And I would think that if Leader Cross was to appoint me, that I would bring a suburban perspective, I would bring a law enforcement perspective, and an opportunity to work with law enforcement and work with Chicago public schools. I don't want to see anybody killed on the streets of Chicago or the state of Illinois. Nobody does here. We're tired of seeing that. So why don't we allow the leaders, Speaker Madigan, Leader Cross, to be able to appoint some members to this committee? I think it's pretty simple. Speaker Madigan could simply add people from Chicago or downstate. One from downstate, one from Chicago would be his pleasure. I don't think it hurts the resolution. I think it helps the resolution, and I think it brings more minds to the table that are prepared to deal with this issue.
Once again, Mr. Rebeletti, I am far more optimistic than I think you are on this issue. So I guess we can continue with the debate and let's see how it goes.
Well, that's fine, but I don't think the task force, if it passes out here today, is not going to stop gun violence on the streets of Chicago or the state of Illinois.
What is?
Well, law enforcement, and I worked on it for 8 years, Representative.
I'm waiting for a solution. Well, I've been here now for 5 months, and as we continue to fight, I continue to see children die in the streets. When are we going to come up with a resolution? It seems that anything that we propose on one side of the aisle is slammed by the other side of the aisle.
I don't think it's a
one side of the aisle proposes, the other side slams it. Ultimately, we're going to have to come to an accord. We're going to have to do that. And I'm not afraid to try to reach an accord. So let's do that today. Let's do it.
Well, these are illegal guns that we're looking at in the first place, so I don't understand why a couple more people at the table is going to make such a big difference. So this is not a partisan issue, Representative, with all due respect. There are members on both sides of the issue, both sides of the aisle, that are concerned about the Second Amendment, that are concerned about the safety of our neighborhoods. I don't think it's a one party slamming the other party. I think that's a red herring here. I think it's a matter of letting leadership appoint a couple more people. I think bringing more minds would be helpful, and I would prefer not to have to remove myself from this resolution when I think that myself, other folks that have been prosecutors and police officers on this House floor would be able to add some type of value. So I would urge you to reconsider that, Representative.
Okay. Gentlemen, this time has expired. The next speaker will be Representative Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Basically, to the bill. And I think that the sponsor has done a good job. And, you know, I would attribute the whole thing about being a freshman representative. I don't think that you all of a sudden got smart just because you came down to Springfield. I like to think that you knew a lot about policy analysis prior to coming down here. I don't know why we're trying to sort of anthropomorphize some of these positions, but I can tell you that I knew at least 2 or 3 people who you've listed here, and I can tell you that their views on the Second Amendment were probably ones that some of the opponents of this resolution would agree with, previous people sitting in these positions. I think this is a good resolution, and I do think that it's a great start. I do think we need to analyze what's happening with regard to these illegal guns coming into the state, and I will wholeheartedly support your resolution.
Further discussion? Representative Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
The gentleman indicates he will.
Counselor, how are you?
I'm doing well, Counselor. How are you?
Good. There's a couple of things that I would like to make clear to you. First of all, you've indicated, you keep saying one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle. I'm sitting on the same side of the aisle as you have, okay? And you're looking at me right now, but you're looking at me as a Democrat with an A+ rating with the National Rifle Association, okay?
All right. Well,
I'm also going to tell you.
Well, as a matter of clarification, I'm actually sitting on the other side of the aisle. I'm on my own special island, and I serve as a conduit between both sides of the aisle. That's why I didn't think that we were going to have as many problems.
Right, but I also want to tell you, like Representative Rebeletti, I was a prosecutor for many, many years and prosecuted the same type of criminals that he did. And I will tell you that I never prosecuted a gangbanger with a FOID card. So it was all illegal guns, illegally owned guns, who committed the crimes, who killed those children in Chicago over the weekend. It was the illegal guns in this state that committed those crimes. Would you agree with me at this point?
All I can agree with are the findings that I've seen from ATF, which I've cited, so I would have to agree with you that that is a big problem.
Okay, and there's something else. You've also said that you're very optimistic as a freshman being down here. I love that. I love to see that. There's still some of us who've been here for a shorter period of time and a very longer period of time. I'm not going to go through those names because then they're all going to hit their button and we're never going to get out of here. But I will tell you that it is very, very odd to form this type of a task force and not have the leaders, both the minority leader and the majority leader, not have the ability to put people on this task force, to not have the speaker, and to not have Representative Cross have people at the table. Now, I can completely understand why the State Rifle Association, why the NRA, why the Citizens Against Handgun Violence may not have the ability to appoint members, but it is very, very odd to not give that ability to the leaders in this chamber. And there are many, many examples of that. Okay, now would you want people, and because that truly would give a state view. Now you do have the Sheriff's Association, and we have sheriffs in all 102 counties, but you're also giving a special person from the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Why is that?
43% of the weapons that have been seized in 5 police districts come from out of state in Chicago. That's where all the murders are occurring, Counselor.
In my district,
you know that.
In my district and in Representative Dugan's district, this is about gun trafficking.
Correct.
We're losing sight